All right, live stream today. I wanted to do one around at a time that Europeans can join in for, so that's why I'm doing it. I waited until the weekend to be able to do it, in the middle of the day in America. So hopefully everything goes well with it. So as usual, actually, I'll go ahead and make announcements. So Secret of Secrets is now released on Lindy Press. If you go to, where is it? Right there, lindypress.net, you can go get it. And actually, later this week, there's also going to be the Alchemy Reader that's going to be out. Hopefully, I'll finish this. Just some last-minute things I need to do with that. I just haven't had the chance. I wanted to release them exactly at the same time. But I'm actually probably going to be doing a podcast episode on both of them, possibly by the end of this month. That might be the next episode I do. It depends on what I feel like. So, let's see. Is audio? Yeah, okay. Yeah, so, let's see. A couple things. Before we even start out, now as usual, I'll read donations. You can go to the donate link. I prefer that over YouTube. And, of course, if you're a Monero user, you can go to xmr.lukesmith.xyz and donate. You can give a super chat in Monero. I love that thing. I love that little program now. It's so small, works so well, I want people to use XMR more. But either way, so you can donate Monero too. But so a couple things before we even start. I kind of want to. I might do this in a separate video just to get more views, so I can get more responses. But if you have, and email me. Don't just say it in the chat because I won't be able to see the chat. I won't be able to check it all the time. Two things that I'm looking for right now that are very important. Firstly, I want to have an email list, a mailing list, right? So as it is right now, of course, if someone wants to keep up with... Now, you've noticed I've been doing live streams on YouTube, and the reason I've been doing live streams on YouTube as opposed to my own video site, which I have at, videos.lukesmith.xyz, is YouTube gives people notifications. I want to have a way of notifying people via email. They immediately get the notification, because not everyone syncs up their RSS feeds constantly. So I don't think that is quite as ideal. So if anyone knows a self-hosted, has to be self-hosted obviously, and obviously free software, but if you know of a good mailing list, or just a way of doing a mailing list, it's actually not too complicated. You just need a place where people can put in their email address. I just want to make sure that many people have probably done it before. I don't know if I want to write my own, because then I have to worry about spam and things like this, and how do I make sure? I don't know. There are different things. Either way, so if you know any self-hosted mailing list software, I would be interested in that, and especially bonus points if it can be RSS to email. That is, if I post a blog post or some kind of RSS update on my site, that I would like some system that could read an RSS feed and email people. And that does two things. One is it gives the notifications, like I just said. But two, for normies and people who are afraid of RSS, even though they shouldn't be afraid of RSS because it's like the best thing in the world, but those people can also just sign up for the mailing list and get notifications, because email, frankly, is a lot easier for some people. It really shouldn't be. Like, RSS is just easier, but people don't know how to use it. So if you know either a mailing list thing or specifically an RSS to email thing, I would like to know. Send me what you have via email or whatever. And the second thing on that, the number two thing I'm looking for, is I kind of want to aggregate. So I try to not be redundant with my RSS feeds. My website has a blog feed. I have my podcast. I have landchad.net and Lindy Press and all this kind of stuff. But I would like to be, and I've seen this before. I just don't remember where it was. But there is some program out there, or probably multiple programs, that can take RSS feeds and it will turn them into like if someone goes to an updates page, it will have all these entries from different RSS feeds. I would kind of like that. So those are the two things I'm looking for, if anyone's familiar. And both of them serve the purpose of using YouTube less. As I said, I've been doing actually a lot of videos recently, and I've been doing the streams on YouTube. And again, that's because of the notifications. But it'd be nice if I didn't have to do that, because I do not like using YouTube. Okay, it goes without saying. And my goal in being on YouTube is solely to get people off of it. So of course you can watch all my videos on my own site or Odyssey or anywhere else. It's all preferable to YouTube, but this is where you find normies and stuff. So this is what you got to do. Okay, so I think that's all the beginning announcements. So I guess I will go ahead and read some donations. Actually, we've got a super chat. James says, in your opinion, is going to March for Life and other protests a good or bad thing? Should we exercise our rights, or does it not make a difference? So I want to say, I'm not really sure. March for Life, is that anti-abortion? I'm not quite sure. In general, okay, so there are really two categories, right? So there's kind of like acceptable boomer activist, like if you're a boomer conservative and you're going to like an anti-abortion rally, that's not going to be a big problem, you know what I mean? But the issue nowadays is a lot of people who go to these protests that are more, I don't know, they're less normie friendly. Like, it's not normal people out there. It's more like political people online, and they go to these protests that are basically full of feds. Okay, and you can usually tell which one's which. Like, if you can explain your protest to a normie, and like it's going to be totally sensible for them, then it's probably fine, right? But a lot of these people who are kind of LARPing online will go to these more like, I don't know, these things that are just like basically giant honeypots. That's the issue that I have, and that's one of the issues that I'm not big on talking about politics or stuff like that. Way back in the day, there was this really good article that was written. It was like why right-wing activism always fails. Okay, and it's probably still on the internet. It was like in one of those NRX publications. I may have mentioned this in another stream, but the point they make is that fundamentally protests, they're not like the idea that you're told is that a protest, people swell up, they have these ideas, they go out and make a protest, and then they change things. And that is like absolutely nonsense. It's in actually exactly the opposite, right? The people in control, they more or less put on protests. Like in 2020, the media fomented all of these different protests that they wanted. And, even though there was, these lockdowns and crap like that, right? It is like a top-down sanctioned event. So left-wing protests are not like, again, it's not like this public upswelling. It is more or less the system generating these people that are really saying, oh, the system is wrong because it's not taking its own values to its logical conclusion, right? And all of those people who in any of the Antifa protests or whatever, right? All of those guys got off, right? Basically, any criminal actions they did. I mean, there are probably some who went to jail and, for some very brief period, but, when they burnt down buildings, there's ultimately no repercussions, right? And so you can compare that to any kind of anti-lockdown protest or anyone else where that is, I mean, it's more like, so when someone on the right, so-called, is doing a protest, they are really kind of fooling themselves, because it's not like protests are not people changing the world. They are the ruling parties doing kind of a victory dance and like talking about how great they are. That I think is what that article that I alluded to a while ago said. So Eleanor sends in, Salve Luca, smash Fasco communism, whatever that is. For those giving super chats on YouTube, just again, I'll remind you, it's better to do it on the donation link. YouTube takes 30% of super chats. I'm just saying that, but I will happily take them. Anyway, so I'll look at some other comments. So Sean sends in. This may have been right before the stream. I don't know if he wants me to read this. I'll read it out anyway. I won't put any personal details. He says, I'm writing a Randian-esque novel. Randy is like that like Ayn Rand? I'm not sure. It's very anti-positivistic, anti-scientistic, and has a large 60% of the book philosophy section. Yeah, it sounds like Ayn Rand type of stuff. Where it's like a novel that's really a philosophy book. But I don't really know any editors or anyone in academia to read it, and who wouldn't get super offended. Could I pay you to edit it? Or something like that. Okay, well, that editing is not my thing. I mean, maybe I would have comments on it. And he goes on, he says some other stuff. Of course, I'm not really like a Randian. Like, I'm definitely not an objectivist. I will say I'm not. I will say that there's a tendency for people to, I don't know, get social credit if they criticize Ayn Rand all the time, and I will not do that. There are many things she say I disagree with, but I think that, like, meta-politically, I think she's a good... Like, anyone that, like, liberals get so offended by, you have to have some appreciation for. It depends on what it is, though. If you want to send it to me, I'll look at it. I'm not making any promises. I mean, there's a possibility I might think it's stupid, right? So, it depends on what it is. But, let me turn that thing off. So, Nue sends a donation. Thanks for all your good videos. What would you say is the best way to break free of the wage cuck system? I'm thinking working more part-time to have more time for my own thing, but your employer usually doesn't like that and wants to replace you. Listen, I'm not against wage cucking at all. Wage cucking is way better than salary cucking in a lot of positions, right? Because wage cucking, you have more freedom. Like, you can quit a job, you can change jobs. I don't know what your position is. So, you know, I think that step number one is to make sure that you're actually using the time you have. There have been many times when I've worked 40 hours a week in a wage cut job, and I've done lots of stuff. I mean, back in 2018, this is the example I always use, when I was working as a carpenter 40 hours a week, I was also doing YouTube videos every day a week, and I was learning how to use suckless software and all this kind of stuff, like kind of learning C. A lot of people definitely have the time. Like, there are a lot of hours in the day. And I think step number one is just making sure you're actually using all of those hours and not like binging Netflix or porn or something like that. Those are the vices that usually get people. So I don't know. That's what I would say. It depends on what kind of job you have and how many hours you have and like what else you're doing. So I'm not one of those people. Like, if you can get a job where you have a lot of free time. You know, I was a graduate student for a period, and, you know, working as a graduate student is basically you being on vacation all day, right? So that's a nice position to be. If you can get a job like that, right, that's fine. But I think anyone can make do. Anyone who has a lot of time. And, you know, I know people in my life who have multiple kids and have full-time jobs and are still learning and doing things and you know, trying to start businesses. I think a lot of people just think that they don't have the time that they actually do here. Do have. Nikos sends some XMR. Hey Luke, greetings from Greece. I just want to thank you for the content you put out. It's really helpful. Take my Monero and put it to good use. I will. Thank you, Nikos. And Fake Toshi sends in $5. What do you think of hardware wallets? I think that hardware wallets, like if you have good seed phrase OPSEC. Well, okay, actually, it depends on if you're actually using your coins or just holding on to them. If you're just holding on to them, if you have good OPSEC with your seed phrase and you're storing it securely, I would not really worry that much about getting a hardware wallet because, I mean, obviously the seed phrase is out there anyway, so someone could take that and, you know, do something with it. And depending on how the encryption on hardware wallets work, like if you have an extra passphrase or something, but... I kind of feel like they're overrated, but I do think they're a good idea for normies who just have no clue how Bitcoin or whatever actually works. And a lot of people, frankly, do. They don't understand, like, I shouldn't have my seed phrase on a text file on Microsoft Windows or Google Docs. That's stupid. Even if you encrypt it with a password on Google Docs or Dropbox or something, that's still, like, terrible. So... If that's the comparison you're making, yeah, having a hardware wallet would probably be better for most people. So, and of course, also they're better if you're using your money more. But if you're someone who just is going to hodl, right, and you just need to have a public address on your computer that you know, so you can copy and paste to send money to it. You know, if you're going to get stuff. Yeah, I don't know how useful they are, but yeah, I don't know, like maybe there's stuff about hardware wallets I don't know, because I've just not been interested in them, but, okay, Tunkoff says, have you achieved a life free from toil? Do you have any recommendations, books, talks, etc. on escaping wage slavery? You don't want to escape a life of toil. right? I mean, you want to be working your entire life. I know that sounds like a boomer thing to say, but I mean, some of you who have been in, whenever you're in school, let's say, okay, and you have summer break off. I know that whenever summer break happened, sure, oh man, I can play video games, I can see my friends, blah, blah, blah. But man, it's freaking boring doing nothing. And really, when you're talking about liberating work or getting rid of BS jobs, it's not about not working. It's about working for things that are actually productive. That's the BS jobs phenomenon that I talked about in that podcast episode. It's the people who are doing pretend work that are miserable. It's the people, and this is a Kaczynski point, right? It's the people who do not see their work actually, or the things that they're doing all day actually creating things. Those are the people who are miserable. So even if you were you didn't have to have a job, you would still psychologically, in order to be a fulfilled person, you would still have to go and find you would have to do the power process. You would have to have what's Nietzsche's word for it? What's the word for it that Nietzsche uses that's basically the same thing? Something about will. What is it? This is a basic philosophical term that I'm totally brain pooping on. Will to power. Will to power. Right. A simple thing. So yeah, I mean, people, they always want to do more. It's not about not achieving things. I want to toil, but I want to toil productively. That's what it's about. And I will say, as for recommendations, you ask for books, talks, whatever. Listen, books and talks are not going to help you. It's you doing things that make you independent. As I mentioned to that guy before, right? Even if you have a wage cut job that's taken up a lot of time, you can, especially in the digital era, in the internet era, you can start, even if you're not making money for the first, however many years, you can go ahead and start planting seeds, because a lot of them will pay off in ways that you do not expect, right? Okay. All right. Someone sent in a list of self-hosted email lists. Thank you for that. I will check that in just a minute, or after the stream is over. Austin says, "What's the final solution to the woman question?" Women are fine. The thing about I don't know. There are a bunch of people on the internet. They're either feminists or they're anti-feminine, incel kind of people who are just mad at women. And all of that, whether you're a misogynist or whether you're a feminist, they both have the same delusion. And they have the delusion that women should be men, or that women should act like men, right? That's a good thing for a woman to be a man, basically. And once you realize that's nonsense, you realize there is no problem with women. I mean, there are many social problems that are more prevalent in women, in the same way there are many social problems that are more prevalent in men, right? Men are more likely to play video games and watch porn all day. Women have their own issues, right? But that is not a question of women in themselves. It's a question of the society that they live in and the society that tells them what to do. And in the case of women, a lot of times they're a good bit more suggestible, like any kind of enforced social political thing. Women are much more likely to go along with, right? And that can be a good thing in a lot of other circumstances. 100 or so years ago, women were usually thought of as being very, much more social conservatives and, much more caring about the safety of their children and their family and things like this, right? It's only been recently that this has kind of been subverted, and it's not because women have changed. It's because the environment around them has changed. And, a lot of people, I don't know. So whenever someone asks me for freaking dating advice when it comes with it, I think it's just so silly, because, listen, people act how they act, and a lot of people just obsess over, I don't know, they obsess over, some girl in high school didn't like me, or, so many modern women are screwed up. Well, you don't need to marry all modern women, right? That's not the point. So, all right, Anon sends in a little XMR. He says, "Luke, help! There's a Redditor in my CS class who saw me using LARPs and now won't shut up about Emacs. How do I tell this N-word, that is nerd, I'm not interested in converting?" Yeah, I don't know. I feel the same way. Listen, there are many great reasons to use Emacs. Emacs is great software. I mean, there's a saying in computing, which I've probably said in another video, is that in computers there are 3 ways to do it. Three ways to do things. There's the Emacs way, there's the Unix way, and then there's the wrong way, right? So we use the Unix way on my channel, and hey, some people do the Emacs way, and that's great. I wish them the best. They can do. I know that there are a couple things that that Emacs can do better and things like that, but like I don't appreciate. Well, I don't want to say I don't appreciate it. It's just not something I've gotten into, and either way, you know. How to make it through to an Emacs user, I don't know, because they still send comments all the time talking about how I need to switch to Emacs and need to try this, that, or the other. A couple years ago, I did try Emacs and tried to get into it, but I mean, my issue is I really have grown to appreciate a good Unix system and using it in the way it's supposed to be used, and I feel like not just everything I learned has been annulled by switching to Emacs, but you know, the Emacs way isn't necessarily better for a lot of things, even though I can look at it and say, oh, this is cool stuff, right? So, I mean, that's what I would say. Let's see. James says, you accidentally doxed your location when you showed the command line weather program once. We live near each other. Would you be up for an interview for my live stream if I pay you for your time? Well, I will say, I will use not necessarily where I live for everything. So, I mean, you can email me. I mean, it depends on what interview you're talking about for what. I mean, you can email me and we might be able to talk about it. But it's not really a secret where I live. You know, it's just, you know, actually it's public information. Like in America, literally where everyone lives is public information. That's how it is. Land of the free, right? That's why it's a good idea to, you know, in general, have your name on a property you don't live in. Obviously, it's most convenient to live close to that property anyway, but let's see. Check for... Logan says, when you first delve into learning a language, what do you focus on first? Do you take a more sterile approach to learning the rules and conventions of language, or do you focus on the cultural underpinnings such as well-known classic literature and conversational social norms? Also, I apologize for the snarky emails. I was trying to be funny nitpicking your website, but I know they were cringe and annoying. I don't know what that's about. I don't know. If you sent me some snarky emails, I don't remember it. I get a lot of emails. I don't know. Maybe I blocked him or something. A lot of times, like, hey, if I get a stupid email, and, you know, if it doesn't, like, obviously reek of someone making a joke, I will just hit the ban this email address button. So maybe I did. I'll check. If you're banned, I will write your name down, and I will unban you. Yeah, I'll write that down. So I will double check. Either way, so about learning language, firstly, he asked, do you go into cultural underpinnings, like classical literature, blah, blah, blah. That has nothing to do with learning a language. I mean, that is like window dressing. That is like cultural stuff. A language itself is a formal system. It has rules that you just have to learn. You know, the old thing, I know I have an essay on my site that talks about learning Latin. And I think I allude to there's a link there on a page to like an old website that was like Latin via the Dowling method or something like that. And the way that he said that you should learn Latin, and I pretty much agree with this, and this goes for other languages that are formally complex. The first thing you do is not, learn how to say how, hi, how are you? I need to learn how to say hi, how are you in English. That was embarrassing. What was I going to say? So the first thing you do when you learn a language is not how to say basic stuff in conversation and stuff like that. What you need to do is learn the rules, and in the case of Latin, you sit down and you memorize those conjugation tables and those declension tables and all of that kind of stuff. That is step number one. And once they are a total reflex and you can recall them instantly on command, then you learn the language in a more naturalistic way. And the thing he recommends that I recommend as well is Lingua Latina, which is on my bookshelf, which I assume you already know because I've done a video, or have I done a video on it? I don't even know. But yeah, so this is like the modern classic of learning Latin, right? Where it's like a book it's a graduated reader that starts out, on super basic stuff, and it's written entirely in Latin, right? And you just go from there, right? So you can probably start out knowing nothing, but he recommends you should learn all the paradigms first, learn the grammar. So yeah, learn the rules first. And a lot of it is dependent on a different language. In a language like Latin that is, a good Indo-European language with many cases and stuff, that's something you have to do. I don't know how it is for Chinese, where there basically is no morphology, is totally different, right? So you don't have to do that step, although you might need to, spend some time on the characters, right? All right. Yeah, people making fun of my my stroke that I just had. Luke Enjoyer sends in some XMR. How do you cope with being older? As a 23-year-old, I'm starting to become age anxious. Just finished college and started working. Why? Are you like a woman or something? I mean, there's the old expression like men age like wine. And that there's a sense in which that's true. I mean, the only sense in which I am nervous about being older is because I am thinking, oh, let's see, am I going to live to see my great-grandchildren? Like, that's what I'm worried about when it comes to being older. But it definitely, I don't know, especially younger guys, like, it's not, I don't know, it's not really, age for a man is not really, like, a bad thing, frankly, because, you really expect men are always slower burns than women. Like, that's how it is. So I'm definitely... I mean, you could say I was anxious when I started losing my hair, but that's just because I'm genetically high T, and that's like a specific thing. But as in terms of just being older, no. Like, I look back at my 23-year-old self, and I'm like, that was kind of cringe. Like, you get a lot more than you're losing with age. Maybe up until the point where you're like 70. I don't know. Maybe then things go really bad. But I definitely don't feel like being old is like something bad. That hairline didn't age like I want. Yeah, you got me. You got me. Again, just, I'm sorry, guys. I just have just high tea. Just high tea. Okay, I think I got through all those donations. So I'm going to look at the chat. Loving Starlink. Oh, yeah, so a lot of people have said, oh, my goodness, he has Starlink. So now he's, like, putting up all these videos. And sure, that has actually changed things. Like, I'm actually able... Like, I don't have to drive somewhere I have to upload. So that has changed a lot of things. Because I would go to, like, literally the public library or to church or somewhere else just to upload my videos, or, like, a relative's house that lives closer to a town to upload stuff. So now I can do it here. But that's actually not why I'm doing more videos. The reason that I'm doing more videos in the past week or so is really because gas prices have been so hard. And that's because, I don't know, when they went so far up, right, where I am, over the weekends, usually I would be like, okay, I'll go to town with other people, like a further away town that's like maybe, I don't know, like an hour's drive, right? And like that is like, oh, now I have to pay like $50 to drive all the way out there. Is that really worth it, So now when I'm killing time, I just have nothing to do at my house, instead of going out and doing something social, this is probably like not a good thing. But I've just been at the house, and I'll do a stream, whatever. A nice jar of bread. Hey, yeah, thanks. I love this jar. It's almost $4 in Arkansas. Well, it's way worse than that here. And I hear in California it's like 6 something. How tall are you? I recently took the height pill, and now I'm doomed as a 5'10" midget. 5'10" midget. Yep, yeah, that's how it is. No, yeah, you're fine. I assume you're being facetious. I had a conversation with someone about we were talking about the Elephant Man. I don't know if you know who this guy is, but he was this guy who was like incredibly deformed in kind of Victorian England, and he had to wear a mask so people wouldn't at him. Like he had some kind of disease that people don't even know about. He was called the Elephant Man, right? And we were I said something like, "Oh, wait, didn't he still get married? Like, didn't he have a wife?" And then we looked it up, and no, he didn't get married, but we discovered he was actually not just ugly, he was also 5'2". So, of course he didn't get married. But, no, anyway, that's a joke. Like, even if you're 5'2", you're gonna be fine. Yeah, 5'10", man, 5'10", which for Europores, just so Europores are clear on the joke, 5'10" is basically normal height. I don't know. It's normal height, but like, you know, when you're not tall, it's just something they do it's a meme. It's a freaking meme. It's a funny meme, though. Although I am slightly taller than you, although I am, you know, definitely manlet because I'm not 6 foot, right? I'm like, I start up 5'11". Actually, probably by the end of the day, I'm probably 5'10", maybe even less. I don't know, dude. I got bad posture. Let's see. So Ketula sends in, I don't know if those are fricatives or just aspirated stops, so sorry about that. Sends in some Monero. Are you aware that God's favorite song is the national anthem of Latvia? Also, everyone knows that the Asimil books are the superior language learning course. I don't know what God's favorite song. Well, what is the national anthem of Latvia? I don't know. But the Asimil books, no, I've seen those. I'm just not a big fan of them. Like I don't even think they're better than like Pimsleur or whatever. But really, when people recommend or when people ask me for recommendations about learning languages, like what resources to use for each for each language, it's going to be different. Like the Asimil and Pimsleur and what's the one that I have? I know I have a German version of it. Maybe it's actually some older Pimsleur, but like all of these standardized books, I think inherently are bad because there's languages are different enough that you need different approaches. And okay, so yeah, like European languages might be close enough that you can use the same kind of resources. But again, like the languages I like comparing Latin with like Chinese, you need a totally different approach. If you use the approach you used for Latin with Chinese, it doesn't work, right? That's why step number 1 is actually learning how the grammar works and seeing what difficulties you need to approach, what do you need to surmount, what do you learn to actually know it, things like that. And I'll also say, what was I also gonna say? I lost my train of thought. Oh yeah, like way back in the day when I first started learning languages, I got the crappy Rosetta Stone things that I, got off of Pirate Bay. And they were so bad. They are just so terrible because it's literally just you picking 4 images of things and like it tests for things that don't exist in other languages because they're so standardized. It's so stupid. It's like the Chinese one is like, it's just so stupid. Like they even have tests for plurality in Chinese, even though they don't even, I don't know, it's not even real. It's so stupid. So. Arthur says, how's the car? Toyotas usually have no problems. Yeah, it's actually doing great. Although I did have a problem with my starter. And this happened twice. There was one time I was leaving church and my car wouldn't crank. And I was like, oh, shoot. And I brought my friend over who knows a lot about mechanics and stuff like that. And we were looking at it, trying to figure it out. But basically, it seemed like the starter was broken. And usually you bang on it. And, if you get enough force, there's something in the starter that gets like kind of gummed up or something. And occasionally it just needs a good banging, right? So eventually I disassembled everything so I could get a good position and knocked it and it worked. And then that happened again the other day. And I was like, oh my goodness, this car that was fantastic. Like it's been breaking systematically. Well, this time I played around with it and after banging it with like an iron rod for like forever, it wasn't working. But then I started disassembling things and I realized, oh, it's not the starter, it's the plug that goes into the starter. Because it was like not perfectly clipped in, like it was a little, like the plastic was a little broken on it. And so I almost bought a new freaking starter and I actually banged mine into oblivion. It has like, dents on it. But other than that, the car is perfect. The car has gone perfectly well. Just that minor plastic thing that broke after 15 years of use. So, and of course, I haven't even gotten it replaced. Now that I know that that's the problem, I'll just slide it in next time, if it does persist. But so yeah, it's great. And I'm actually gonna sell my old car eventually. And the great thing about that is like used cars are so expensive now. I could probably sell it for way more than I got it for, even though I need to fix some things with it. My old Nissan, it has mainly like air intake things, but in the past couple of years I've just learned a lot about how cars work. So anyway, Jaworek sends in a donation saying, "Hey Luke, I know that you're against ebooks, but have you considered selling PDFs and other formats on LindyPress for those who are interested in this form? Have you ever considered publishing your book source files as a public repository? On the second point, yeah, I've thought about publishing my source files, but and that actually would be kind of nice and collaborative. I kind of want to milk it for a little more money. Well, I actually, I shouldn't necessarily assume that I'm like not going to make money if I put the source out there, realistically speaking. Actually, I probably still would. Maybe that'd be an interesting idea, like a fully open source system with open source files, and just to prove to the world I can still make money off of it. Because theoretically, someone could, host their own site doing the same kind of stuff and take the books. Now, as for putting them on like ebooks and stuff like that, absolutely. I have thought about doing that, but not in PDF format because, a lot of the texts I'm reprinting, there are only a couple, so there are some exceptions like the Opus Tertium and maybe some of the stuff in the Alchemy Reader. There are a couple things that you cannot find out online or they're like in messy PDFs. And I have thought about just putting them up on an HTML page because it's my view that like digital reading is totally different from for me to just put the PDFs out there is kind of stupid because PDFs are formatted for books. That's why, you have a different verso and recto page and stuff like that. But absolutely, I was going to submit the text of Opus Tertium to the Latin Library. I should do that. I think you just email it in. But yeah, that's something that doesn't exist on the internet because where I got it from was this messily digitized PDF that if you PDF to text it produced this Latin text with all of these errors, and I had to go through all of that painstakingly. And since I've done it, I might already publish it. But it's definitely my belief that a lot of the stuff is online if you go look for it, but the whole point of me selling it is to have it in a book format, right? It's public domain stuff, so I'm not one of those people who thinks that if I publish the text, then it's going to be like cut into my revenues. But I think what might cut into my revenues is if I put the entire site up. But if I did put it up, it would of course be in a GPL or free software stuff. The guy who wrote most of it, I've only tweaked it. I had a subscriber actually help me with it, and he did 90%, probably 95% of the work. He had done it partially for his own. He had his own site first, and he adapted it to my purposes. But he said something about. I don't think he said he didn't want it released, but he said, "Oh, I'd prefer if like Lulu didn't have this for themselves because I don't know. It's for us. I don't know." Either way, I might still do it. So Joseph says, I need help losing weight. Broke my leg in a football game. Was already big as a lineman. Been in my home office for 2 years straight. It's been disastrous for my health. I go out often, try to ride my bike, but I need mental fortitude to just stop eating. I know all the theory about nutrition, but I struggle with so much self-discipline. Please help me, friend. Well, so I kind of have views on this. I think in the last stream we actually talked about what's that documentary, Sugar, the Bitter Truth. I am more of the persuasion that like your fatness is more. It's not necessarily lack of exercise that's your problem, but it's probably the kind of things that you consume. Like if you're consuming too much sugar and if you're consuming certain types of carbs, I would say. Now, as for mental fortitude, I cannot just give you that. You got to come up with that. The onus is on you, and you don't have any excuse not to do it, right? But as a minor optimization, I would try to eat more whole meats and stuff like that, and minimize calories, or not calories, carbish stuff, especially sugars. Especially if you're drinking like sugary drinks or anything like that. You're gonna feel a lot different if you just eat more of a meaty diet, more of a keto diet. Something like that, because even normies know about that now. It's like the magical trick to losing weight, and kind of building muscle too, depending on your lifestyle. So, as for that, yeah, I do recommend like having more meat in your diet, and you will lose weight. But as for the fortitude stuff, you got to do that yourself. Like that is if you know what it is. This is how a lot of people are. They know exactly what they're supposed to do in life. But they can't motivate themselves to do it for some reason, which seems kind of, I don't know. It's like, I don't know, do you really believe you need to do it? It's funny. Either way, I will just say that, yeah, it's not about forcing hurting yourself. Like, I think a lot of people say no pain, no gain, but I think especially in diet and stuff, like, it's less exercise and more diet. That's just what I would say. But you can check out Sugar the Bitter Truth, or maybe it was not that. Well, you should look at that anyway. You should search it on YouTube. It was an old talk that got a lot of views, and it's still very popular. Sugar the Bitter Truth, but Anonymous says, "Hi Luke, do you own any firearms? If not, get a Glock 19. It's the gun equivalent of a ThinkPad. Glock 19. I'll remember that." But as to the question, it's none of your business what firearms I may or may not have. Although I of course I endorse, when we're talking about self-reliance and independence and things like that, firearms are a necessity. You can't really talk about them on YouTube. YouTube is really skittish about them, or they might demonetize videos that are about guns, right? But realistically speaking, that's something you got to have for yourself. Like if you're pulling your own water out of the well and all this kind of stuff, it makes you got to have some last resort means of protection for yourself, right? It comes with the program. Rishalm sends a donation. "Hi, are you a spiritual man? Do you believe in the great truth? I think you probably came across this in your Sanskrit studies." Well, I'm not a Hindu. I'm a Christian, but yeah, I studied Sanskrit. I'm less familiar with Indian philosophy and religion and stuff like that. I'm somewhat familiar with, I guess, broader Indo-European thought, like earlier stuff like that, because I was interested in that. And I learned some things about Hindu philosophy in the meantime, but not enough to have strong opinions about it. Other than, I think I even mentioned some in, maybe I didn't, maybe in my podcast episode on Christianity and Stoicism, I might have mentioned some more like perennial stuff. I'm not really a perennialist, but you know how it is. Those people are out there, and a lot of them like Hinduism. Axel says, "Is neuroplasticity a meme? I'm trying not to waste my youth by learning specialized skills before it gets harder to do." Let's see. I think there's a case to be made that it's a real... So neuroplasticity, maybe I should explain that in case there's more of a normie who doesn't know that, but in psychology, it's this idea... I feel like I got a burp or hiccup or something. In psychology, there's this idea that as you get older, right, your brain is less good at learning how to do new things. I would say over the past 10 years, from me being 20 to me being 30, I think there is a sense in which maybe I'm less... I don't know. I think most of it is like me not caring. Like I felt like I've learned enough stuff in these domains, and I feel like less motivated to learn things. I do feel like I am still... When I sit down and learn things, I feel like my cognitive abilities have not lessened. In fact, in many respects, they've improved. I don't know. I don't think that's because my IQ has gone up, but I think it's just because you have a perspective that's drawn off of more areas. But as for later in life, I'm not quite sure. I don't know. Older, like by the time you're 80, 90, yeah, you probably get... people get senile, right? That happens. But I don't know... the real reason to learn things when you're young is because you're getting time, okay? You're getting more time having known them, right? So if you want to learn Chinese when you're 10 versus learning Chinese when you're 80, it might be easier to learn it when you're 10. It might be easier to learn it when you're 80. I don't know, but it's going to be way more useful if you learn it first. So you should learn things now just because they're going to be more useful as time goes on, Either way. Gabriel sends in some XMR. He says, "Here's 4 days of hash rate. Enjoy." Oh, okay, so that gives me an assessment of how much... Okay. I don't know if that's worth... Depends on how much you're paying for power, but I don't know. Maybe I'll do that. Do you just have one machine? I'm not sure. Either way, thanks for the donation. Also, thanks a lot for your email whiz script. If only my ISP would stop effing up and blocking some ports on my commercial connection. Wages, do your job, Okay. Well, thank you. I'm glad the script has helped you. And I will say the people who email me, a lot of them have used my script, and a lot of them are on their own domains. I think I mentioned in the last live stream that I've via emails from Epic telling me that someone has purchased a domain through my link. I know that something like 15,000 domains have been purchased due to my influence, and I like that. I think that's a great thing. Xenu says, "What are your thoughts on Funko Pops?" I don't know if that's the XMR Xenu, but yeah, someone in that chat posted this freaking video of a guy like reviewing his 3,000 Funko Pop collection, and I just can't, man. That's just, like, I watched a lot of that video. Well, I wouldn't say a lot of it. Maybe like 2 minutes of it. Because I'm just like, these are the people who we call normies. And I can't help thinking that they're freaking the most bizarre people in the universe. I mean, when I was 7, it was really exciting to go to Toys R Us and look at the Lego sets. You know what I mean? Of course, they were way too expensive for my parents or whatever. But, you know, I guess there's that childlike joy in toys and stuff like that. But I can't imagine feeling that now. Like, I just can't, I don't know. Maybe I just don't have as much dopamine as these consume product people. I don't understand Funko Pops. I don't get it. I'm confused. There are some things that normies do. I look at it and I'm like, these people are from another freaking planet. I don't even get it. I don't understand. I don't know. And that's it. Die Meow Mouse sends in a donation. Have you considered interviewing the internet freak from Crete at a future date? I presume you have already heard of him and his many IP scratchings. I don't know who that is. The internet freak from Crete. I will write that down, though. I will look him up. Notes. Okay. Okay, Vietnamese person says, sends in some Monero, your choice of taro boba tea is a good choice, although I'm more of a light, I actually don't know how to pronounce that. Is it lychee? Likey? Whatever it is, lychee person. I've never actually had that. Maybe I'll try it next time, just because you say it. I don't know when I'm going to go to a Vietnamese restaurant next time, and of course it's probably going to be $15 to get a freaking boba tea. It's already like $7, you know. Anyway, what's your favorite Vietnamese food? Hard mode, you can't say pho. I mean, what else? What other Vietnamese food is there besides that and the baguettes? That's basically all they have. I just want to. When you have pho, you gotta have. Man, this is. I criticize normies for consuming product, and here I am talking about freaking Vietnamese food. Like, I don't know. Anyway, you gotta have some good tendons and seafood and stuff in it. Adam says. Hey Luke, I wish I could have caught your last live stream, but I was only subscribed on PeerTube. I had some questions I was going to ask, but I forgot what I was going to say. Your thoughts on Sway, I guess. Also, please mirror the live streams on PeerTube too. Cheers from Bermuda. So, thoughts on Sway, I don't really have... Okay, I always get it. So, Sway is just the i3 equivalent for Wayland, I think. And in that case, I'm not really interested in Sway because, I'm not interested in i3. i3 I consider very passé. Thankfully, and I have to say it's because of my influence, but thanks to my influence, DWM is kind of the norm, at least on YouTube and elsewhere, for tiling window managers and stuff. And I think this is better, and I'm not going to switch away from it. I think there is a build of DWM for Wayland. I think it's like DWL. I think I tried to put some of my patches in it, but you know, you basically have to redo everything, and that's a lot of effort, right? Theoretically, like I guess I believe that Wayland is superior or whatever, but to switch over to that standard just seems like a big pain. And as for why do I not mirror live streams on PeerTube, the reason I don't right now is because I'm kind of running out of space, and I need to you know, kind of increase my storage space. I mean, it's not that close. I probably have like 20 gigs left on the separate storage I have for videos. So, and that's actually less than it sounds, because for every video I have to keep multiple copies and different resolutions and stuff like that. So that's why I don't put live streams up right now. I will probably eventually put them up once I size up the all of that. But I need to, I need to put some money down on that. It's not going to be that much. It's probably going to be, I don't know, like $100 a year or something like that. Maybe less than that, to get like some extra space. I mean, the issue is going to be backups, and which I should back things up even more, but. Ivo says, hey Luke, what's your opinion on fasting? Do you participate in the Great Lent? Well, I'm too much of a prot cuck to, I've never been familiar with Lent since, churches I've been in have never done it. I think obviously it's a good idea, and when I do, I do contemplate when it's most convenient for me to, well, maybe that's a bad thing to say in spiritual matters, but when I convert to Orthodoxy, obviously, I hope to do all of that. But as it is right now, as fasting, fasting happens for two reasons. One is mortification, right? So making yourself less reliant on worldly things, and that, of course, is a good thing for spiritual reasons and also for practical reasons, right? If you're constantly eating stuff, if you're constantly consuming product, fasting is the solution. And additionally, it's also good for your health, right? And I'm one of those people who eats basically once a day. Actually, today that's not the case, because I ate something this morning, because I didn't eat much yesterday. But usually I will eat only one meal a day. And so I guess you could say I invented this intermittent fasting thing. I've been doing it way before, I don't know, it became popular on the internet. So it is something, and also if you're into weight loss, it's a good idea, it's BCHAD is what the Bitcoin Cash chat, I guess. Sends in some XMR. Hey Luke, greetings from Argentina. Do you consider yourself paleo-libertarian? And on another note, are you related with the Ivan Illich's work, like Deschooling Society? I don't know that off the top of my head. Maybe I'll write that down in my notes. Notes. Maybe I should just keep this file up like a smart person instead of opening it every time. Am I a paleo-libertarian? No, I would not consider. I don't consider myself anything politically. I mean, politics, the whole notion of identity politics. People usually mean something else when they say that. But the whole notion of identifying with a ideological belief, I think, is fundamentally, it's fundamentally leftist. Actually, it's fundamentally post-Enlightenment. And like the whole notion there being is that, oh, well, we have to plan how society works. We have to decide, what is a good. It's the notion that the neurons in the brain are deciding what the entire brain does, and I think that's entirely backward. Society and politics are an emergent phenomenon, and they get corrupted, frankly, when people try to pretend that they're not like that. And that is the fundamental flaw of the Enlightenment. Now, libertarians, I think, are less bad than most people, because their design behind society is just, well, let's not do anything, basically. So it's less harmful. But they still have a lot of socially transgressive views. If you say, oh, I think people should be free, that doesn't always mean let's just not try to change society. That means specifically saying, here are our ideological ends and we are going to work to them. And I think libertarians can, again, 9 times out of 10 libertarians are fine. I think they're probably they're definitely like the least harmful, least egregious portion of kind of normie politics. But I think they still hold on to that notion of there's this ideal society that we have to build. Even if that ideal society is built on not building things. It is partially emergent, right? They do have that, they have an essence of that view, but not the whole thing. I mean, my normies will often separate politics into the political compass, the two what's the word I'm looking for? I don't know, the axes, where it's like economic freedoms and social freedoms and things like that. And libertarians will be like, oh, well, here's how libertarians will be. They'll look at liberals and they'll say, liberals meaning like libtards liberals, and they'll say something like, oh, well, you claim to want freedom, right? But in reality, a lot of the private economy, a lot of so-called capitalism, whatever, the free market, there's a natural solvency to it. Okay, and that is true. Like there's a reason that price systems exist. This isn't to give my endorsement of anything in the modern world, but yeah, there is a natural solvency. There is the free market is a real thing. There is a mechanism behind it, and that is a legitimate form of study. Now, libertarians take it a little bit further, but my issue is libertarians don't have that same viewpoint on social domains, because they will look at a liberal who, or let's say like more of a communist person who doesn't believe in private property, and a libertarian will explain to them why, this is a useful emergent norm that serves a particular purpose, and without it, everything would fall apart. And they can make good arguments for that, right? And I think they're right on that. But the issue is they fall for the same fallacy a communist falls for in the social domain. They say, look at all these things in social politics that I don't like. Oh man, that's not free. People have to be able to decide whatever they want, and like society can't constrain you and all that kind of stuff. That is exactly what leftists are doing in the economic domain, also in the social domain. And I think once you realize that, you realize that society as well, like culture, political culture, all of it is emergent, right? All of it, and the very notion of, everything else is LARPing, right? That's really what I'm getting at. I on my old website, which is still, I think there's an archive of it. I need to just port over all the stuff from my very old website, like 5 years ago. I did have an article on this, on, how libertarians get to more like kind of reactionary views by recognizing the parallels in there. Because ultimately, once you realize that the social domain has emergent phenomena as well, you come to realize, like social libertinism is actually a really bad idea. But in the particular political environment, I think that libertarians are definitely the least pernicious people. Like, if I had to vote for people, libertarians in America at least are usually the most solid. Like they're going to cause the least harm principle, right? Max says, Luke, do you still believe that Genesis is a metaphor for our creation or literal? I'm currently formatting a copy of Genesis, Creation, and Early Man by Father Seraphim Rose. The book has been out of print for a while. I would happily provide the PDF if you want to publish it as a book or host it as an ebook. If you have any interest, email me. Oh my goodness, I am 1,000,000% interested, actually, because I thought about doing that one myself, but it's so freaking long, and I haven't read it myself. And if you are doing that, I don't know if you're doing it in LaTeX. I hope you're doing it in LaTeX. But even if you have the digital text that's easy to format, yes, I would like to publish that on LindyPress if you'd like. And let me write this down. Okay, this is the creation. As for the whether I think it's metaphor is not the word that I would use, right? Metaphor, there's a level at which everything's a metaphor, but I also don't think that. Yeah, I don't like that dichotomy, whether it's a metaphor or literal. And I'm also kind of unopinionated about it. For me, it's fine to me. Like, if you read or if you listen to my podcast and stuff, I sort of do them assuming that, scientists' view of the world is like more or less correct, of the 14 billion year old universe and, man evolved on Earth, stuff like that. I treat that as a working assumption. I'm open to that idea. I'm open to more radical creationist stuff like that. But, the thing is, most of the people who are creationists out there, the kind of Ken Ham, like those people, they're kind of cringe, they're kind of boomer, they don't make good arguments a lot of the time. But either way, I would be very interested in that book in particular, because I have wanted a physical copy of it, because it goes for like $6,000. So I would love to be able to print those. Anon sends in some Monero. Thanks for answer. Actually, hold on. Before I do that, I'm going to check YouTube Super Chats. I will go ahead and say, as always, I miss a lot of YouTube Super Chats because they don't have a persistent list of them. So I'm going to read this Super Chat first, though, before it goes away. Kobold says, your GNU Linux content helped me develop professionally and make more fake money. Working as a cloud architecture dev right now. Love the tech, hate the corpse behind it. Do you think there's a non-demonic future or version of cloud? No, I mean self-hosted stuff maybe. Like that could be the closest thing. I mean, really not the cloud itself, right? I mean, not in the way that it's used, because things are just getting worse and worse. So I just think it's really pernicious. Anyway, so Anon sends in Monero, as I said before. Thanks for answering the needful cert. I will politely inform him that I am a Unix man. Also, here's some money for Luke was right again. The Luke was right again jar about DuckDuckGo. Yeah. So DuckDuckGo, for those who don't know. Okay, so the thing is DuckDuckGo. Let's give the story of DuckDuckGo. Okay. Google. Everyone knows that Google is like some demonic corporation that monitors everything, controls everything, and of course everyone uses it for its search, so they can, at their own whim, they can change search results, they can, they omit sites they don't like, usually political stuff, and, they put what they want on the front page and stuff like that, and it's always been like that. And eventually DuckDuckGo, which I assume actually many of you probably use DuckDuckGo, came out. And DuckDuckGo, of course, it's still proprietary software. It's still just some company, but I forget what's the guy's name, like Weinberg or something, who runs it. I forget. Okay. Either way, they come out and say, this guy who the CEO, I forget, it's something Berg. I forget what I think it's something that starts with W, and I don't forget. Either way, so he comes out, and he actually worked for ad agencies and other kind of spyware companies, but he comes out and says, here's our new search engine. It doesn't track you. There's nothing malicious. We're not going to bias your search. We're so much better than Google. And they actually had a lot of features. They had like bang tags where you could just type in like !I and it would send you to images, or WT and it would send you to Wiktionary, or just it had many convenient things. But the thing about DuckDuckGo, and this is the problem with everything else, like Telegram, that is a centralized service, is fundamentally you cannot trust them, because it's no different structurally from Google. It's just a new party who says, hey, you can trust us. We haven't done anything evil. So what happens with DuckDuckGo? Well, they come out the other day saying, yeah, we're gonna change all the stuff that happens. This is what they cuck out on. They say we are now gonna change the search results to give us like more anti-Russian sources in the search results, and like diminish Russian websites that are in Russia, or like pro-Russian government source. It's just insane. Like, and mind you, of all the stupid memes they could have fallen for, this is the one. Like, of all the like forced, I don't know, activist crap, like this is the one they choose. I don't know why. People are going nuts about this thing. It's really like what's going on with the kind of mass hysteria about the Russia thing is significantly worse than all the stuff in 2020, to be honest. Like, I don't know. I am surprised how, gassed up normies are to do all this. Anyway, so DuckDuckGo, you can't trust it. Now, if I had to use DuckDuckGo with Google, I'm going to use DuckDuckGo. And a lot of times, if I pull up a normie computer and I need to go to a search engine, I might go to DuckDuckGo. But the permanent solution is using free and open source software that anyone can install on their own computer, and you can have your own instance of. And that's why I recommend Cirx. That's SEARX, Cirx. And you can search it on YouTube if you don't know about it. I've done videos on it. Probably other people have. And you can use a Cirx instance that's just controlled by some freaking guy with an anime avatar, and you're much better trusting that guy than you are trusting any of these corporations, right? So, yeah, DuckDuckGo, I mean, it's the same thing with Telegram. Again, like, you might say, oh, wow, Telegram, they're not banning people. Well, firstly, are they? I mean, they are actually banning people. But aside from that, it's not end-to-end encrypted. It's proprietary software. When there are literally things like Matrix or XMPP, which you can use right now, that do everything right. Okay, that is the thing that just drives me nuts. When normies, they're just being herded around like cattle to like the next, this is the next social media site, which is structurally identical to the one that they just left. There are solutions to these problems. They're out there. Like, I don't know. Local rice farmer sends in some Monero. Hi, Luke. Your video on cloud computing and voluntary digital homelessness was great, but ordinary people think it's just a lot of work. Is there a point trying to inspire people? Listen, when I do my videos, I don't necessarily do them for normies. I do them for you guys who like know stuff about technology. And, I will host services for people around me. I've hosted search instances. I have a chat server that I let other people use. So it's kind of like be the change you want to see in the world. Like Joe Normie is not going to install like a Matrix server for himself. But if you have an XMPP or Matrix, or you say, hey, here's an app you can install on your phone, you can create an account here, we can use it for this, it's much more secure than anything else for communication, and you can do all this stuff in it, hey, that's going to work, right? So people always underestimate the extent to which they can affect the world and the people around them. And this is something I'm thinking about now. One thing I want to do this year, I've been meaning to do a video talking about this, kind of this plan. But I want to have more. I want to buy some physical servers and hardwares and stuff like that. But I'd really like to have like a BTC Pay service, right? So BTC Pay is like a self-hosted Bitcoin payment processor. And I thought like it'd be easy enough to set one of those up, and I could go to businesses in town and say, hey, listen, do you want to accept Bitcoin, right? I can just make you an account on this, maybe some nominal charge per month. And allow you to accept, payments via Bitcoin. And that is just a way, or maybe I'll do it for free at the beginning, because a lot of people are like, I don't know anything about it, I don't want to pay. But just putting that option out there, or Monero, of course, BTC Pay, it can take Monero, don't worry, kids. But yeah, that's the kind of thing. Like people don't realize how easy it is to affect people around you. That's how it is. I'm always... I have a YouTube channel. That's the weirdest thing. I didn't expect this would ever happen, right? I don't know. It's easier to do things than you think. Okay. No, sorry. There was a message saying people are complaining about the chat. Sorry, there's a spammer. Let me... we had to do this last time. Just... turn on slow chat. Give me 1 second. Once I remember how to use YouTube. Live URLs. Live stream in. Jenny. Okay. Alright, I will continue to read in the meantime while that loads. Lex says, thoughts on the Haven protocol. I actually don't know what that is. Is that related to Haveno? I don't even know. Because, as I've probably said elsewhere, I am just natively suspicious of any kind of cryptocurrency project that doesn't use, like, Bitcoin or, like, builds itself on top of a pre-existing network. My reaction is always I'm just suspicious of it. So I don't really know that much about it. So... So Zakir sends in a donation. How about resources for learning Koine Greek? I'd like to achieve a reasonable level of fluency for reading and writing. So I'm probably bad to ask about that one, because in my situation, what happened is I had used, I had learned Latin first, right? And after learning Latin, Latin and Greek are pretty similar in terms of, grammatical structure and honestly words as well. And so what I had done is I had learned Latin, and then I just got a biglottic Bible, which I actually have right here. And it's like Latin on one side, Greek on the other. And I would just learn it from there. And that's basically how I did it. So I would say, as for learning Greek itself, I don't know, because obviously I recommend this for Latin. I don't know if there's like an equivalent, a more like naturalistic method for learning Latin, but I'll also say that it's like a little more difficult to, like Greek paradigms, or especially verbal paradigms, are a little more complicated. So I don't know, like I can't give you a full, like if you're learning Greek from nowhere, I would I can't give you like a one size fits all solution. But if you know Latin, I recommend you just like use a biglottic text or read historical stuff that is translated in both, and you can kind of go from there. Because if you know Latin, like everything in Greek is going to be like second nature, just like different letters, you know. Okay. Okay, so yeah, there's a donation from the last time. Chris says, Luke, last live stream you talked about your opinion that people can only process information in words are low IQ as compared to having spatial reasoning. No, that's not exactly what I said. But he says, I agree with the general idea. I've been programming computers for almost 16 years, starting at a young age. I feel like logic and semantics have deeply worked themselves their way into my thinking patterns, and I now analyze the world and process information primarily through this lens. Do you think this is a big brain version of verbal processes, or am I just coping with being a low IQ soy dev brainlet? No, okay, that's not what I said. It's not that like my statement was spatial reasoning is something that is it's harder to fake. Whereas verbal reasoning is something, just because you have good verbal reasoning doesn't mean you're stupid, but it doesn't mean you're smart either. That's the point that I was making. That, like, someone who has an IQ of, like, 85, and there are a bunch of public intellectuals who write books on certain topics that are not, I don't know if they're even as dumb as having IQs of 85, but they're not super smart, but you can kind of fake it more. Like, you can learn to use language in a way that can impress people. Like, you can use good grammar, you can have a couple words that you use, like stuff like that. So my statement was verbal reasoning is like less G-loaded than spatial reasoning. Now, if you feel like logic and semantics have deeply worked into my thinking patterns, I don't know if you mean logic and semantics as if they're verbal, or because arguably, I mean, spatial reasoning is, I mean, that's not necessarily what people talk about when they're talking about verbal reasoning. It's not necessarily spatial reasoning either, but yeah, I mean, obviously, how you think about things can affect. They can affect. They can improve your way of thinking or not, right? But it's just my view is that so-called verbal reasoning, it's not really as important to intelligence as people think, and I think it's pretty easy to fake. And yeah, so I don't dismiss anyone for having low verbal reasoning, or although I will say people who are intelligent, if you're someone who's natively intelligent, you will naturally learn more words than other people. You will be like, oh, this word describes a concept that I use all the time, but, a 100 IQ person might not use it, right? There might be reasons that you actually have higher verbal IQ either way. But my statement was that people who are not intelligent and who don't necessarily need that verbal architecture, they can use it to look good and fake. That's what I was saying. Crypto Bear says, seeing your video where you rant about how bloated the modern web had me thinking about what a lost art web development without soy dev dev requirement is. When talking to modern web devs, I believe they're completely lost if they were asked to build a JS-free website. Yeah, that's definitely true. I mean, I think I said in another video that web development, it's like what Nassim Taleb said of architects, like a lot of modern architects who build all this crappy, nasty modern art. They do it to please other architects. And web devs are kind of the same way. They make these crappy websites that just abide by these stupid principles that they have this idea, within their own community they look good, or they use cool frameworks or stuff like that. When, my development framework has always been open up an HTML file in Vim and edit it, right? And I even have like a quote-unquote static site generator that's not even a static site generator. It doesn't take markdown files and creates HTML. It actually directly creates HTML, and I can edit it. So yeah, I think, that's a big freaking problem, to be honest. Like, web development as an industry is just so screwed, and it's so hard. Like, they will make these simplistic faux minimalism, where it's like a simple page. We're thinking about, what are users going to click on? We don't want an obtrusive interface, which of course hides a lot of the stuff they need, right? But more importantly, you'll have a couple megabytes of loading just to look at a freaking blank page. That's the craziest thing. Modern web development as an industry is just totally screwed up. And the most annoying thing is that soy dev standards are now being normalized, right? So a lot of people are like, well, I just have to have a website that looks like that because that's how they do it, right? So someone noticed on the thing that someone was spamming a couple minutes ago. I've seen that copy pasta. I've never understood it. Like, I have one ThinkPad, and I have, like, one broken ThinkPad. I don't know where the meme comes from of me having lots of things. Well, actually, I do know. There was a video years ago where I had, like, 4 ThinkPads in one position. It was, like, right when I had gotten this new one, and I was getting rid of the old ones, and I did a video with 4 ThinkPads. I think that's where it actually comes from. But it's kind of cringe that that's become, like, copy pasta. I don't even get it. But, So Emergent Super Chat says, do you like Keith Woods? He has a lot of philosophical right-wing YouTube videos that I think you'd like. I would like to see a collaboration. I'm aware of Keith Woods. I think he might watch my videos too. I'm not quite sure. I don't really watch that much political stuff. I mean, I'd be open to something like that. I'm fine with him. He seems like a nice guy. But I'm fine with that. But I don't know. I can't tell you I like watch all of his videos. I've probably seen some of them. But yeah, I don't really watch that much YouTube. I usually just go on people's channels and be like, oh, this looks good. And I did that with Keith Woods. And I've seen a couple of his videos. I was under the impression, I think I said in the last stream, or there was some time where I was talking about Keith Woods, only in passing, because someone mentioned him. And for some reason, I thought he had been, like, banned, because I hadn't seen his videos recommended. He probably just got shadow banned or whatever. It was actually the same way. I want to say in 2020, Stefan Molyneux, I think, got banned from YouTube, which surprised me, because I was like, didn't he get banned, like, 5 years ago? Because I used to see his videos recommended to me all the time. And, I'd never really watched them, but I can understand why the algorithm would recommend that. Like, an AI that's not trying to manipulate people and is just trying to offer them things they might be interested in. I could understand them recommending Stefan Molyneux. But either way, YouTube just stopped recommending his stuff. And, I thought he'd just been banned 5 years ago. But that's how they do it. Like, it's really screwed up. What are they going to do? Like, that's basically why they exist. That's what YouTube does. Ryan says, Luke, if you search Gideon Lazar on YouTube, you'll find some cool Young Earth Creationist Catholic stuff. Okay, I'll look that up. Gideon Lazar. That is like the thing I want to believe. I want to believe in Young Earth Creationism. I want someone to, convince me of that. I'm still like a little behind on donations. Luke, speaking of mirroring streams, what happened to your streams with older people like Chris Occhipinti and DistroTube? Did they become cringe, too based? Thanks for all your work. What do you mean older streams? They should be. I know I have the stream I did with Chris Occhipinti and DistroTube up on my PeerTube instance. I don't think anything happened to them. Or did they become cringe? Like, I don't know. Or, well, if you're asking why I don't do streams with people, the reason I did those streams, that was right before I moved out into the country where I knew I wouldn't have internet. So I was like, this might be the last time in my life I can ever do live streams, I mean, thankfully I can do them now, but so I was like, you know what? I'll just shoot out some emails to random people, and I did a lot of live streams with them. I did like one with everyone. I did one with DistroTube and Chris Occhipinti. I think I did one with Trap Code. And I did a couple with Rudy Hill, who might be in the chat right now. I know that he's been watching some of the streams recently. I don't think Rudy's been putting up videos, but either way, yeah. I mean, it's nothing. Chris Occhipinti. I want to say I've emailed him about like meeting him in person. Like I think we chatted about that once or twice, but I haven't talked to him recently. DistroTube, I don't know. Like I don't watch his stuff. I think a lot of his stuff is more. I don't know. Well, you can have your opinions about it. I'm not going to state mine. But, so, Shah Rams something or other donates $1. Thoughts on the Epic hack? Are there any good alternatives, and when will you be converting to Islam? Wow, all good questions. So on the Epic hack, for those who don't know, Epic got hacked a couple months ago by some like Fed, and like they released like everything. They released like everything they could get their hands on. Like a lot of people freaked out. It was kind of like a forced meme. Like people would email me about it. The thing people need to realize is like everything on Yahoo has been hacked. Everything has been hacked. You know what I mean? And so that's the importance of, I don't know, using like different, not having all your eggs in one basket, right? So after that happened, of course, the Epic hack, I don't know if I've changed landchad.net, but I think I recommended, or I might not have even pushed the change. Maybe I should. I think I should have a list of other registrars as well. Now, I don't hold it against Epic, and I still use Epic. They're fine, like they're victims of a crime, whatever, but it is very unfortunate. I mean, there's not much to say, like, sucks, but that's how it is. As for good alternatives, like if you want one where you don't use you don't have to give so normally when you register a website, right, you have to give like an address. Like they never check it, of course, right? But you have to give a name and address, and you have to have a payment processor or like, payment information. So I know a lot of people will use, I think, do I even have it here? Yeah, so it should be on landchat.net, right? So at least it's on my copy offline. I'll check the online side. But there's stuff like Nyala, like which is njal.la. That's the website, njal.la, where it's like they register the domain for you under their name, and then they give you the ability to switch it if you want. So it's like you having ignoring that kind of privacy liability. So that's an option. There are a couple sites like that I've mentioned out there. But in general, I don't hold it against Epic. People did freak out when it happened, but again, like everything, like if people knew, it was more just like a forced meme, just because there have been a lot of other hacks of similar levels that, where there's data. Like again, every Yahoo account has been hacked. I want to say Facebook and Google will have these all the time. And I think in the case of Epic, where like it was hacked for political reasons, there was just like the media was kind of trying to foment that, but. I wouldn't necessarily. I haven't switched away from using them. You might want to if you think it's bad, but I don't care. Anon sends in some XMR. No comment on that. Torsten sends in $5. Doesn't say anything with that. Thank you though. Let me check. No YouTubes. Let's see. Oh, sorry, I didn't respond to the Islam thing. I figure that's not a sensible. That's a joke anyway. Okay, yeah, sorry. Stradivilo, I can't even read all this. Long email address says, nations, based or cringe, real, based on ethnicity, or LARP, based on imposed narrative on a population. I mean, nation, like, the word nation is screwed up nowadays. I mean, the word nation, literally, it comes from nasci in Latin, like the word for birth. Like, the term nation before the 20th century meant, like, a race, a birth group. Not necessarily race as that big of a category, but a birth group, right? So the whole... so if you say something like ethno-nationalism, in the actual use of the term, that's just redundant. It's called nationalism. So before the 20th century and before, I don't know, boomers, I guess, this idea that a nation is like some kind of civic organization is very silly. Like the term, if you read anything in the 1800s or before, the term nation is always something that is based off of people of common familial origin, right? So, so like the whole idea of so-called civic nationalism as the opposition to that is necessarily cringe, right? Because, or it's like a modernization of the term. And obviously when I use the word nation around people nowadays, you use it in that way to mean like, oh, it just means a country. But the term natively meant this is like a group of related people, right? That's why you can talk about the histories of different nations didn't mean the history of different states. It meant the histories of people. Like racial, not necessarily, again, racial is a larger category than nation how it was used. Actually, that's not always true, because a lot of the times they would use them synonymously, right? But yeah, I mean, that's a misunderstood. It's one of those terms that's just like changed in its meaning. But, you know, so nationalism nowadays has more like French Revolutionary flavor, where it's like, oh, to be a member of this nation means to be like a citizen. And that doesn't matter if you're born here, you're a citizen in America, right? Or if you apply, you're a citizen. Whereas like a bunch of normies, they will be so confused. Let's say weebs, or like people who go to China. Like I know a lot of Americans who have gone to China, and like they're so oh, it's so hard to get Chinese citizenship. How can I get it? I can never get a dude. It's because you're not of the Chinese nationality. Okay, you're not racially Chinese. Like most countries in the world, when they're looking at, traditional countries, obviously, again, in the 20th century, partially based on American influence, a lot of things changed. But in China, yeah, you can't be a Chinese citizen. You're not freaking Chinese. And if they grant citizenship to someone else, it's something like singular and honorary and, you know, specific to someone's life, right? Dangerously based RN. Not even that. I mean, this is just what the word freaking means. Like, it's not even based. If you want to hear real based, you got to hear my speech on what the word American meant. Because it used to be that the term American before the 60s was just like an ethnic term. Like people would not refer to, like, the whole idea that, like, different races of, like, okay, put it this way. Before the 60s, or even, 50s or something like that, the term American was really exclusively used on, like, what we would now call white Americans, right? Even black people who had citizenship. They would be called, American Negroes or something like that. But it was not, like, if you go in a corpus of historical American English, you can do that actually right now if you really want. I know that BYU has one of those. And you could just look at the term American and how it's used. And it's primarily, when talking about different ethnic groups, it's primarily used as a racial designation, not necessarily like a country designation. But nowadays, in the 60s, there was this very marked change, like, to use the word American to mean someone who has citizenship in the United States, when it was not really used like that, 100 years before, right? And this is where we get to the place where, like, you have American Indians who are now called Native Americans. Now, the term Native Americans, back in the 1800s, that meant a white person, right? A Native American, that's someone born in America, as opposed to someone who came here. Whereas they did not consider Indians Native Americans. I mean, it's sort of like, okay, it's sort of like, when the Turks moved into Turkey, okay, we now call that area Turkey. But we don't call the Greek people who lived there before the native Greeks, or the native Turks. If we called them the native Turks, that would make no freaking sense, right? Even though they were in Turkey beforehand. It's the same kind of thing. Before the 1960s, no one had this term Native American. But, what you do there linguistically, what you're telling people is you're saying, oh, well, what defines the country is not something that's ethno-cultural. It's just like being in the physical area, right? So Lex says, the Haven Protocol uses Monero technology for its stablecoins. The white paper is very... Okay, maybe I have heard of that. I haven't. Maybe I'll write it down in my notes. I will check that out. So, Tom says, will you be adding a favorite recommended links, or in other words, a discovery section to your website? Yeah, I need to do that. I really need to do that. I'm going to write that down in my... I need to do that because I will tell other people you should link to other sites. And the thing with, I mostly just link to my other sites, but I should link to others because there are many other artisanal websites that people should look at. Seth says, wordlets replace words with bigger ones just to sound smarter. Best example is wage cucks who use the phrase paradigm shift during work presentations to sound like they are fixing the world by adding a useless time suck step into a process. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, I think I said in the last stream, people who say utilize instead of use, that's a good example. So always use the most simple terms. Jimmy Neutron says, you said you like paying with gold and silver in general. Have you seen gold backs? They're basically bills made of gold, so inherent value. No, I've never heard of that. That's kind of funny. Yeah, I can't tell you I know about that. Ross says, Luca, I think I might be priced out of the rural property market here in Scotland. I'm thinking about buying land, sticking a trailer on it, and building a house after. Is this something you would recommend? If so, how would you go about it? Ross, also house tour when I want to see your Mental Outlaw Funko Pop. Yeah, it's funny. So the funny thing is, in the past couple of weeks, so I think I said in the last stream, Mental Outlaws channel has gotten like really big. It's like bigger than mine now. And so now I'm starting to have people who are new to my channel being like, oh, wow, you're just like Mental Outlaw, when it used to be the other. Now I'm like biting his style. That's the worst part. So people, like in 5 years, you know, if people look back at this period of YouTube, they're going to be like, oh yeah, Luke Smith, he was one of those Mental Outlaw imitators. And I'm going to, oh, dang it. But I don't know. You never know. It's great. As I said before, I think it's good that Mental Outlaw is out there doing like more like topical newsy videos. I think it's good stuff. And obviously it's very popular. People want it. It's good. Like there are a bunch of other people who I would not trust to do that. Mental Outlaw is really good at it. I've never heard anything he said that's like cringe. Maybe someone could tell me something he said that's cringe, but whatever. Anyway, so on rural property. So yeah, I don't know. Everyone in Europe says everything's expensive. So I don't know exactly, what your situation is, but, yeah, if you just want to buy land, if you can buy land and put a trailer on it, I think that's probably the best thing to do if you can't build a house right now with your financial situation. That is something, I mean, a lot of freaking millennials do basically that anyway. So yeah, just get your teeth into it. I don't know how taxes are there, like if you have to pay a lot of property taxes, but in general, just owning land, like land is we're never going to have more of it, you know? So just getting your teeth into some land, even if it costs a lot of money, as long as it's in a consistent place that's not going to be, you know, bulldoze, like they're going to build a city there. I don't know, maybe you'd like that if they built like a city right next to you and the property value went up. But either way, yeah, just get the land. And yeah, there's nothing wrong with living on a trailer or a tiny house. I've said in the past, like using, you know, looking at a tiny house as a permanent solution is a very stupid thing, or like living in a van. That's a stupid thing if you view that as a lifestyle thing for the rest of your life. But if you're starting out and you need to economize on money, that's a very sensible thing to do. So. Pyromandan, I found you in Mental Outlaw at the same time and originally thought you were the same person because one of your videos played right afterwards on autoplay. Yeah, that's definitely not true. Me and Mental Outlaw are definitely not the same person. Definitely not. If anyone asks you. Flying Curtains says, what do you think about Steven Pinker and why is he your favorite linguist? Well, Steven Pinker is not even like a linguist. I don't know why people call him that. This is obviously a joke. Yeah, Steven Pinker is shoot. I don't know. I don't really have anything to say about him at this point. I think he's not involved enough in academic linguistics, and I don't think he's really like he does more cognitive stuff and brain stuff. I don't think he knows that much about formal linguistics. And he's written some books that kind of talk about language, but they're not, I don't know, like a linguist would not say, oh yeah, Steven Pinker is a linguist. But yeah, he studies language stuff, and I will say like his, yeah, I don't know. Either way, he, aside from that, he has some pretty cringe books like Better Angels and what's the new one that's like, I don't know. He's one of those liberals who just wants the good old fashioned liberalism. You know, he just wants the old takes. He thinks they're crazy now. He's just trying to be respectable and say sensible things. But no, you can't say sensible things as a leftist anymore. Like they're way past that stuff now. Either way, a lot of his specific things are actually kind of cringe too. But he said some base things too. But you know, I'm not. He doesn't say that stuff anymore. Zakir says the Enlightenment and its consequences have been a disaster for the human race. Also, it's pronounced Zach-I-R. Oh, I see. The I and R are initials. Okay. Zach. I will call you Zach from now on. Or do you mean Zach? Yeah, they definitely have been a disaster. Which that's not what Steven Pinker thinks. And then he canceled his monthly. Yeah, whenever half the time when people donate to me, I think because monthly donation is the default, a lot of people will like accidentally do monthly donations and then undo them. Do you know about the P2 pool for XMR? It would be nice if you consider making a video about it. DuckDuckGo uses Microsoft servers. Oh, really? That's even worse. Their Onion service loads images over non-Onion. Oh my god! Whoa! I didn't even know it was that bad, but Monero Mateo needs your help with Linux. He's a cool dude. Check him out. Yeah, I'm aware of his existence. I mean, I did a video with Kevin Wad the other week, and I know that Monero Mateo's out there too. He does, not boomerangs. He goes walking in the woods, but yeah, I know that both of them, which I find very, I'm not putting them on the. No, I should put them on the spot. Frankly, I should put them all on the spot. Listen, if you're using freaking Monero and you're using Microsoft and Windows, I don't know what to tell you, bud. That's just. Listen, like if a seed phrase has appeared on a Microsoft Windows screen, I would consider that compromised. It's a spyware operating system from the bottom up, and so it's not difficult to use Linux. It's not difficult to get into this kind of stuff. So when I see someone, mind you, this isn't just them. I will say there are a lot of people in cryptocurrency. Like people in cryptocurrencies, to be honest, they don't know that much about other technology. I mean, a lot of them don't know that much about cryptocurrency. But they don't even understand like free and open source software and why you should not be running proprietary junk for security's sake. And so many, even Monero people will use freaking Reddit and like Twitter as their primary way of communicating. When it's like, come on, just have like a Monero hosted forum or something like that. I think they have that. Maybe they just need to meme people into like using it more or something. I don't know if there's like a Monero Fediverse thing. That would be nice for those kind of people, but I don't know. Like it's good to have normie on-ramps. Obviously, I have a YouTube channel. I don't want to dismiss it totally, but the goal is to get people away from that kind of stuff. And yeah, using Windows is just not. You just can't do that, dude. Obviously Apple as well, Macintosh or whatever. But Linux is not difficult, especially nowadays. So I think people need to bully people into using better equivalents, right? They need to. I don't know, because if they care about this kind of stuff, I don't know. They will eventually acquiesce. Obviously, all of these people, they're just comfortable in what they're doing. It's working for them right now. They're not really thinking about it, right? And I will say, I think Kevin Watt a while back did a video saying that he had something stolen, like some kind of C phrase compromised or something. I'm gonna go ahead and say it's probably, well, I don't know, maybe it's something Windows related, right? It's a lot easier to click on something and screw something up with Windows, like. Kronesk says, more content to consume from Luke. Thanks for Larbs. All right, thanks for the donation. Although, obviously, I do always feel bad when I do too many videos because I feel like I'm wasting people's time, frankly. Oops. I forgot something. I gotta do something on GitHub. Oopsie daisy. So let me see here. Scope. Scope. Yeah, we'll fix that. Sorry. Got an email that I didn't actually upload the LF configuration that I put up the other day. Oopsies. Or for the the stage that. I'm just gonna clumsily commit this whole thing. Git add config. Come on, buddy. Config LF scope. Okay, and then git commit scope wall, and then upload. All right, that should fix that. Hopefully, I'll have to look at that later. Mateus sends in $1. Did you? Sorry. Gotta pull the changes first. And now we... All right. Okay. Mateus says, do you see a fix for the internet in WASM, or is it just as prone to soyism as JS? I don't actually know what WASM is. I know that I've seen that before. Yeah, I'm not quite sure what that is. Maybe I should look it up just in case it's something important. Because, well, it might be something that I actually know, and I'm just not thinking. Okay. Shoot. Sorry if my stream is kind of buffering right here. It's because I'm loading a bunch of stuff. Oh, let me turn that off. Let me turn that off. Oh my goodness. Okay. All right. Back to what I was doing. Yeah. Sorry, I couldn't pull that up. I don't know about it, so I'm gonna assume. I mean, the solutions are always return to tradition when it comes to technology. Like, do things the old way that worked. So again, I edit web page. Not everyone can do this, but I edit my web page just by opening up a freaking HTML file with Vim and doing this, that, and the other. But yeah, I mean, it's really just the culture of web development that I think is focused on all these frameworks and all this kind of stuff. But I don't know enough. I mean, I don't do enterprisey things enough to give pointers out. But I can tell you that there are many optimizations that anyone could implement. So, Suyong sent in a donation. What would you recommend for a 20-year-old high school dropout to do to get a lot of monies? Been trying to teach myself web dev with React. Lol. We were just talking about that. Would love to hear your counseling. By the way, just ran into your channel last week. Been loving the content. So, yeah, I mean, web development as we were just saying, is kind of a corrupt field. Like, there are a bunch of, like, nasty, I don't know, things going on. But that might still be an option. I'm not telling you not to do it if you can learn it. And I mean, I would just say if you have time now, if you're, I don't know what your employment status is right now, but just make sure that all of your time free is looking at new possibilities for the kind of things you can do. Just don't waste your time with freaking Netflix, right? I can't give you anything specific, especially if you're doing web development, because I'm not interested in it, because I do everything the old-fashioned way, right? Like I mean, all the stuff I have hosted, like a lot of it, you know, it's just me using free and open source software, right? You know, my PeerTube instance, it's not like I wrote it myself. It's software that I'm using from somewhere else. So, like, I can't give you web development advice. And, you know, whenever people ask me about web development advice, you know, I will just say keep it simple and leave it at that. But, you know, it depends on what kind of jobs you're looking to do. If you want to go and, I don't know, go to local businesses, help make them a website, something like that. There are always things like that. People are actually very willing to waste money on stuff like that, even if it's not like, you know, nothing just to notionally have a web page, right? Because everyone has Facebook. That's not enough now, right? It shouldn't be. Sean says, what are your thoughts on Mormonism and the LDS Church? I don't really think about them that much. I mean, they're not... there are actually some Mormons where I am. But I don't think it's the right religion. And I definitely don't really consider them Christians. I mean, they're different enough that... I mean, their basic theology is totally different from all of historical Christianity. I mean, it's not even like Protestant stuff. It's, you know, way out left field. So I don't consider them Christian. I have not really I've known a couple Mormons in my life, but I've never lived in a heavily Mormon area. Some people I've known said that they're kind of cult-like. I don't know. I mean, maybe they are. I just have never been around them, so I don't think about them that much. Why do you dislike cats and find dogs dumb? When you live in a rural area and want to be more self-sufficient. Cats stop mice and rats from eating and infecting crops. Dogs, BTFO predators who want to eat your chicken. Dogs are fine. Like, I'm not against having I'm against decoration dogs. That's what I said. But, a lot of dogs can be useful. Cats, like the whole, firstly, a lot of the things that cats do, like killing rats and stuff, dogs do that. Like, the dogs are better at anything a cat could theoretically do, a dog can do better, right? Cats are just all decoration. They're just not, and they kill a lot of things you don't want them to kill, right? They're a lot more likely to kill chickens than dogs are. Well, dogs can. Like, I have a cousin who has a dog, and I think they got rid of their dogs because they killed chickens. They did get cats, but they keep them inside. So, yeah, no, I mean, having a dog, there are reasons to have dogs, it's fine. I'm not against having a dog as a farm animal, but cats are just useless. They're just decoration. If you want a decoration, you can get a cat, but it's expensive and needy and kind of annoying. So, all right. Eleanor sends in a super chat. It's written in some Cyrillic moon rune, so I can't read it. So, I'm sure it's very funny what he's saying, though. I'm sure it's hilarious. Okay, how long have I been going? I might stop it sometime soon. Okie dokie. Yeah, it's been a long time since I've done a Saturday stream. My kittens eat the crickets. Oh yeah, so I will say I had these. There's this stray cat that had kittens at my house the other year, and for a while I let him stay before I eventually got rid of them, put them somewhere else. But they're these big, massive, like yellow, kind of grasshopper-looking things. They're huge here, and there's a season of the year where they come around. I think they eat a lot of crops. They've never eaten anything in my around where I am, but they're just all over the place. And I remember these little kittens, only a couple weeks old. They would, I don't know, they could like see them coming, like flying in the air, and they would like jump straight in the air and just like get them and I don't know, just pull them out of the sky. It's crazy. Wait, Luke, did you answer the question before about Sneed? General opinion. I didn't see the question. As super chats, I don't see them all. Because I'm mostly looking at my own, and I can't, because YouTube is mentally retarded, I cannot go and pull up previous super chats once they disappear. He said, received a transmission from Putin, initiate Operation Iron Fist, turn off the radio transmitter. Okay. Sorry, I don't know Russian, or if that was in Russian. Yeah, that's right. I'm the deep-faked mental outlaw. You got me. Luke, have you read Guns, Germs, and Steel? Lol. Yeah, I read that. I did that for a book report in 8th grade, and I think I reread it. Because when you read something in 8th grade, you don't get it all. So I reread it, I want to say, sometime in high school. But it's like the fakest... It's a stupid book. Ryan Falk did a really good breakdown of it, just like why the whole book is kind of absurd. Alternative hypothesis, which I think he's on BitChute still, but I don't think he's on YouTube. I think he privated all his videos on YouTube. So some Hebrew name sends in some shekels. He says, "Can you make a video about IPFS and storage? Also, why not hosting your own RTMP server behind a cache server with Nginx?" I've thought about doing that. I could never get the configuration exactly how I wanted, but ideally what I really want is to be able to stream to, stream to my server and then stream, of course, to PeerTube and to YouTube and Odyssey all at one time. Some people have, helped me out, fixing things up, but they're still kind of, I never got it working exactly in a way that is I don't know, good enough, right? Do I use Brave Search? No, I use Cirx, which I mentioned. I just use some random Cirx instance. Again, SEARX. That's the best thing, because what it does, if you haven't seen my videos on it, what it is, it's free software you can install on any server, and there are lots of people who run these servers, and all they do is, instead of you connecting to a search engine, Cirx just goes to like 20 different search engines and assembles results and gives them to you instantly, just as fast as if you had found them yourself. Or I mean, I guess like a millisecond less, but you won't notice a difference. And so it's way better because you can have wider stuff. It's less liable to, if Google or DuckDuckGo are censoring people, well, maybe Yandex, it has a different algorithm that might be censoring other people, but you'll have a variety of stuff, and it's just better. It's more customizable. You can do all this kind of stuff. It's okay, the main thrust of the query was how Sneed relates to the Ukraine situation, and maybe your general opinion on Sneed itself as a concept. I really enjoy Sneed as a concept. I was trying to... Me and my cousin were explaining his younger brother-in-law what Sneed meant. How do you use Sneed in a sentence? And, kids these days, they're not ready for Sneed. What does Christian mean? Says... Mizoto, I think you know what Christian means. Alright, let me check. Alright, Luke, what are your thoughts on banning pornography or the government banning things for the public good in general? I mean, pornography is a very clear case of something that should be banned. I mean, like, I don't take banning lightly, but as something that poses absolutely no good and poses enormous harm to the people who consume it, I think it's undebatably like something that could be banned. Obviously, I'm not one of these autists who, has some kind of ideology behind it. But I think it's a very clear case. Like, it could not be clearer in the case of pornography that it should be banned. But, of course, now, in governments as they exist right now, in general, like, if the government says, oh, we gotta ban this because it's bad or something, our government is run by psychos and people who are, if anything, they want people to do bad stuff and be evil and coom and watch Netflix all day. So our government right now is freaking demonic. But in the abstract, there's nothing... there's nothing like, I mean, obviously, it would be stupid not to ban something that causes nothing but harm, right? What is Sneed? I think it's just some 4chan Family Guy meme, right? I didn't think it had much meaning. Lol. Luke is pro-censorship, rip. No, I'm pro-censorship of bad things. Like, the issue with it now is a lot of people will... I'll give you this speech. People ask me, am I pro-free speech? Now, I don't really think about it that much. And a lot of people say, oh, wow, Luke is free speech. He'll defend all these people who have been banned. No, the reason I defend him is not because I believe in some abstract notion of free speech. Like, oh, we just have to allow things to happen. I defend them because the people who are getting banned by our psychotic, demonic government right now are right. Like, it's not because I want the technicality of free speech. I do it because they're right. Like, I mean, if you're getting banned by Twitter and Reddit and stuff like that, you might be a spurg. But more often than not, like, targeted political and religious persecution, it is targeted people who speak the truth. Targeted towards people who speak the truth. So that's why I support them. I don't support them because I support free speech. And I think when boomers have this, I support free speech. What they're tacitly saying like, if someone gets banned for something political, let's say they went to a lockdown protest and they got banned, or they got their bank account frozen or something like that. And then some boomer comes out and say, oh, well, I support their free speech. What they're tacitly saying in that is they're saying, I am not going to defend this person for what they actually believe, and therefore what they believe is bad. However, there is some autistic, abstract thing called freedom of speech that I support, right? And that is stupid. That is counterproductive. I absolutely don't. Firstly, pornography, of course, is not speech. What are you speaking about there? That is just a retarded thing. It's literally just, it is something for, pornography is literally just controlling the masses. It could not be a clearer example in that case. It's totally inert. It's not artistic. It's not productive. It doesn't help people. It only harms, and the only people who are in support of it, of people who are totally they have this, they identify with their sexual weaknesses to such an extreme degree, and they fear more than anything else is, their own conscience and the judgment of God, frankly. So they have to come up with this cope of why it should exist. So whenever I see free speech, anyone talking about free speech, I'm not against free speech. I just don't think of it. It's not an issue. Like, we're not, like, when I look at the world now, free speech is not an issue. The issue is people who are being targeted for speaking the truth, right? And I support those people not because of free speech, but because they speak the truth, right? And as an aside, free speech, again, I'm not saying I'm against it, but every culture, like every nation state, has always had restrictions over questioning the core assumption behind it. And that is very much true in liberal democracies, and in fact maybe even more true than it is in China or something like that, right? Lurker sends in some XMR. Have you ever looked into open hardware, microprocessors, open source CPUs, radio communications, protocols alternative to the internet as a complement to open source software? Is building your own electronics with open hardware based, or is it another solar panel-like situation, as in you fool yourself in that you're detaching yourself from the system while actually remaining very much dependent on it? Is it even possible to go in the right direction with organization-dependent technology? I have not looked into it that much myself. I mean, I guess I flirted with things like the EOMA, which I don't think ever came out. So, I like the idea of things like that, and I'm not against them. I do think they're a big improvement. But yeah, they're still organization-dependent technology. But then again, any digital technology is going to be that. And if I consent to use, an old ThinkPad, right, I would happily consent to use stuff like that. I'm just not familiar with it enough to be sure that I can get all of my computing done on it. Or, I don't know, maybe I should look into it, but I don't know. I don't know enough about that world to tell you. All right, I finally finished all the super chats and stuff. Now everyone in the chat is just talking about, like, if porn and video games should be banned. Which, yes. Yeah, but porn is freaking crazy. I mean, the craziest thing is whenever you have some freaking one of those organizations come out and say, oh, we have to restrict free speech on the internet. It might radicalize people. We don't want, like, people to deny the lockdowns and all this kind of stuff. We have to protect people from this. Hey, excuse me, isn't the internet the place where people go to watch porn? Like, can't any child just go on the internet right now and watch porn? Isn't that what the internet is? So the whole idea of let's make this cozy place for an internet, like this cozy little place where, no one's going to get hurt on this giant system, which the government tacitly accepts. Every major Western government tacitly accepts pornography and its existence on the internet. Where if they came for pornography with 1/10 of the vigor that they did for political speech, there just would be no porn on the internet, frankly. Or you'd have to go to, like, obscure onion sites, right? The whole thing is so stupid. Thoughts on Chris Langan? I know that he exists. I think I downloaded his, like, what is it? CTMU, I forget what it is. I think I downloaded his little paper, which is actually kind of interesting. Weirdly enough, a lot of people talk about him, and they talk about, back in the day, he was like, oh yeah, the world's smartest man. Look at his super high 200 IQ or whatever. But I haven't finished reading it. I kind of put it in another folder, which means I'm probably not going to finish reading it. But maybe I should. But because he's an interesting guy, and he has this interesting theory of the universe. Man, that's hard to... maybe it's worthy of a not related episode, actually. Of course, if I did, maybe I'd have to get him on for it. Because I feel like it's better to hear it from the horse's mouth in his case. Because it's one of those things where I think there's a community of people that do the CTMU, but he's the only person I know that is like writing on it. I don't know if it's just his thing that like... either way, it's an interesting thing. Thoughts on where to get Michelle Thomas's tapes? Yeah, like just any torrent site will have them. All right. Let's see. I feel like I've been going for a long time. Actually, I think I have. Oh my goodness. Yeah. What freaking time? What time did I even start? Stream settings. When did this freaking... Hold on. Debut. Oh yeah, we've been going for 2 hours. All right, go ahead. I think I'll close it off relatively soon. If you have last comments or donations, send them in, and I will read them. And once I'm done, I will probably finish up. This interview, Chris. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe I'll reach out to Chris Langan. I don't know. It's an idea. I know that he's active on Gab. Like I think I've been directed to his Gab page, which he uses like a blog. But I think he like responds to comments and stuff like that. He's one of those guys. I do appreciate one thing about him is that, if you're around people who are less intelligent than you, I will say there's this tendency to dismiss them a lot. That is an always present tendency, right? Like, oh my goodness, this person just doesn't understand, right? So there are a lot of comments I get on my YouTube videos that are just like, this kid is probably like a 15-year-old kid. He just has no clue about this one thing he's talking about, and he's like so arrogant about it. And I just like want to just, I don't know, delete the comment or like just be like, dude, you're so cringe. You don't know what you're talking about. One thing about Chris Langan is, as I said, he posts on his Gab and he posts like responses to things. He actually does like give people who you wouldn't think deserve any time. He actually thinks he kind of talks out their arguments. Now sometimes he'll be like, wow, this guy's dumb, but he'll at least like and there's an important reason for this. Like when you're arguing with someone on the internet, especially, people are egotistical on the internet, and you're probably never going to convince anyone of anything on the internet. But what you will do is you can make not an example of him, but you can illustrate, you can show for other people what the kind of thing for people whose egos are not at stake right now. You can show them where the chips fall. Like what is an actual sensible thing to think. So usually when you're engaging people on the internet, it's not about them. It's about the people who are watching. And that's actually one of the reasons. Let me give you some life advice that I've learned on the internet as a minor internet celebrity. Just don't engage in drama kind of stuff. There are a lot of things I could say about a lot of people. And as time has gone on, like other people on the internet, as time has gone on, it's better to say less and less about that, right? So... Oh, I don't think I said... Did I say it at the beginning that... Sorry, because someone was saying it about freaking Lindy Press. That The Secret of Secrets is up on lindypress.net over there. I don't know where the link is. I don't have my thing pulled up, but you can get it there. I will say, prices on Lindy Press. The annoying thing is, my book producer, every other month, they will send me an email saying, we're increasing production costs because of Brandon and all this kind of stuff and inflation. So... if you want to get a book, it's better to get it now because I might have to I know that they're putting up prices actually on the 15th. And as time goes on, I will have to increase prices too because that's just how it is now. It's freaking nutty. I did hear that inflation has gone up so much with used cars, which I like because I'm going to be selling a used car that I need to fix. I think I mentioned that earlier in the thing. Anyway, let me check for some last donations as we draw this to a close. Tommy says, have you considered streaming on Cozy TV? It's Nick Fuente's streaming platform. User interface is very nice. At least it's a better place to stream than YouTube. Well, as I said, I have my own site where I can stream on, videos.lukesmith.xyz. Is it? I always forget, is it video or videos? By the way, videos.lukesmith.xyz. So I have that already. I don't need that. I mean, like, if I set up my own streaming server that, like, restreams to a bunch of different places, I mean, I'd be open to streaming everywhere at once, where I could just stream to that one server and it would go everywhere else. So I'm not against it, but I don't really know. I don't really know him. I know of him, but, I'm not against it. But... Oh, there's like a Coomer in the chat. Let's see. Oh, it's like a bot. It's just like the same guy posting the same thing in different profiles. All right, where are the Coomers? Let me find them. Aren't you being hypocritical by saying people should take personal responsibility, then going and having the authoritarian take of banning porn? No, screw you, dude. There's no reason. No one cares that you're masturbating to porn. Go away. Like, you don't... Like, if you watch porn, your opinion just doesn't exist. There is no justifiable reason to use porn. It's like being a freaking meth head. That's the same... Like, I don't know... Authoritarian... Freaking word cells... But, oh, look, here's a word that I have bad feelings about. You don't want to do this thing. You don't want to allow this thing that causes literally nothing but harm, so that makes you a bad guy. No, stupid. It's stupid. There's no reason ever to allow pornography. There's no function of it. There's no use of it. And the funniest thing is that people are now coming out and saying, oh, pornography is a good thing. Because why? Why should it exist? Why should it be allowed? What sane society allows any child to get on the internet right now and watch porn? Or any adult. It's not any better for adults, frankly. It's just freaking egregious. Like, anyone who endorses porn or even thinks that it should be allowed is just insane. You would not allow toxic chemicals into your house. You wouldn't allow, like, some, like, child molester to be, I don't know, like, your child's daycare provider, right? But that's exactly what you're doing when you're allowing porn. You're saying, I endorse all of this kind of stuff. It's just insane. I'm not a freaking libertarian. That's why this is exactly what I said earlier in the stream, right? Because libertarians, they have this stupid idea that, oh, well, we should just have everyone should do whatever they want. Omitting the fact that, again, like, leftists have this idea that, oh, well, the economy has to be centrally planned, more or less, or democratically planned. And anything that just happens out there, that's, that's like bad or whatever. And libertarians are like, they have that same logic with social affairs. They think they're for freedom. But in reality, the most, like, one commonality in all cultures before the 20th century is the absolute watertight conservatism of any kind of sexual morality. This kind of corruption can only be allowed in this libertine society where, oh, it doesn't actually, it doesn't, you just got to be free to do whatever you want, blah, blah, blah. It's just so stupid. It's just so stupid. Yeah, and aside from that, saying something like pornography is not free speech in the first place. It has nothing to do with it. It's demonic crap, and it's not speech. It's like you just going out there and causing harm to people, or like it quite literally is. Imagine there was someone out there who just took pictures of, like, naked people, like genitals, and ran up to children in public and just showed them pictures of it. That's literally what pornography is. So would you support that? Would you support that out in the open? Don't you think that someone who does that, firstly, they're suspect. Secondly, anyone who endorses behavior like that is suspect. But thirdly, there's no difference between that and pornography. That's what it is. That is literally what it is. The Romans had porn mosaics. Yeah, the Romans had porn mosaics in their brothels. Okay? We have it everywhere. You turn on TV and there's basically softcore pornography. Okay? Every commercial is like that. So the whole thing is, oh, look back at history where someone did some degenerate thing. Therefore, like, kids should be watching porn since they're 8. This is ridiculous. This is just so stupid. This is just, I don't know. I mean, this is not an issue. Anyone who endorses, I don't know, it's just nuts. Like, I forget that people on the internet will defend this crap. Because I guess, in order to even defend that kind of stuff, you have to be so severed from the real life. You imagine going to someone you know, like some adult or some kid, and explaining to them that you think pornography should be freely available on the internet. Imagine trying to explain that. The only people who could possibly do that are people who live playing video games and consuming this crap all the time. It's just so antisocial and bizarre. Anyway, that's enough about that. No, like, these people are not going to be convinced, you know? Like, they're literally, this is the whole point. You know, actually, someone noted libido dominandi on my shelf the other day. This is the whole point of sexual control. Because once people are hooked into something sexually, it is hard to convince them to overcome it. They become governed entirely by their vices. People become highly predictable, and they will defend their new sexual identity to the death, right? That's the issue with it. Anonymous says, hey Luke, what are your thoughts on chocolate milk? Cringe. So the issue with chocolate milk, I mean, well, really you're just putting extra sugar in milk. That's the problem. So yeah, drinking milk is fine, but if you want the super processed stuff with extra flavor, I think that's kind of cringe. Eric sends in some XMR. Porn is not free speech under the First Amendment. The Gab guy talked about this. I mean, yeah, obviously I don't know what their interpretation is. The Supreme Court, you never know what they're going to say. But yeah, it's insane to say that it's speech anyway, right? Either way, it's something that's totally legally permitted in a lot of nutty societies, like Western countries. And it's just not justifiable. I don't know. Like, people don't think about this freaking crap. Like, I don't know. There's a big gap between people who have these, like, internet ideologies and, I don't know. Again, imagine yourself explaining that to a normie. Like, I don't know. It's just silly. Just silly. Zach says, if the Lord gives me kids, I'm keeping them off the internet, and especially cellular devices, for as long as possible. Yeah, I think it's nuts. Maybe parents are just naive. I mean, I think for people older than millennials, for millennials, that's around the period where, like, the internet was all over the place, and people know that there are all these obscene sites on the internet. So a lot of us, I mean, the concept of giving a cell phone to a child is just insane to me. But there are a lot of people who are a little older than us that were before that internet age. Maybe they don't know what's out there on the internet, and they just give their kids phones. And a lot of cell phones will have this annoying, these like blockers and stuff like that, so they can't get on internet sites and things like that. But at that point, it's like, why are you giving them cell phones anyway? That's what I'm wondering. So yeah, I can't imagine. I don't know what goes through the head of parents who give their children phones. I mean, most of them in their heads, they're thinking like, oh, well, I'm worried my child might get lost. Well, you can get a GPS transponder, basically. I mean, you don't need like, there are so many antisocial things that come with a cell phone that, you just don't want, I don't know, you don't want that. You don't want a child around one of those things. So. All right, so that's about it. I don't think there are any more donations, so I might call it quits pretty soon. I'm getting kind of tired, but let me check the normal chat. Yeah, nothing much more. I'll try to read. Let's see. Luke, this is an internet ideology. The real-world consequences of prohibition were terrible. How could the consequence of this not be just as bad? Are you insane? Like, what are you talking about? You think, like, people are going to kill each other if pornography is banned? That's just insane. The whole prohibition thing is a big meme anyway. Because, like, prohibition is getting, like... so for Europeans who don't know, there was a brief period in America where, like, they banned alcohol throughout the entire country, and it just lasted a couple decades, and it was, and they decided that was a bad idea. And the mythology behind it, it was like so chaotic because they were like a lot of people drank it anyway. Firstly, alcohol is a long-standing cultural tradition which you can very much consume moderately and enjoy it and use it, and it's not. It's not like a good thing, but it's something that is part of cuisine, it's part of cooking, it's part of life. Pornography is not a long-standing cultural tradition. Pornography is something that mankind has never been around. There is no such thing as, let me just go to a hardcore porno site, okay, in, 1950. And people will try and equate, oh, look at these these magazines with naked girls. That's not even the same thing as pornography. That's bad, but it's not as bad. So we're in an entirely new world where you can now look at your average millennial. Look at the people in this chat, mind you, who will die to defend masturbating on the internet. Okay, and the idea that please explain to me what kind of crime is going to happen when pornography is banned? Like what kind of it's just insane. Like people are just fooling themselves. This is like and of course, mind you. When Prohibition happened in the United States, did alcohol consumption go down? Oh, yes. Like, all of the metrics, like, all of the social goals of Prohibition succeeded. Yeah, I mean, they had to enforce it. That's hard. I mean, it's hard for something so popular, right? And it might be hard to enforce pornography if we banned it, right? But it will still drastically change the lives of millions of people who will not be getting sucked into pornography when they're in elementary school, because that's when kids start. When they're elementary schoolers now, and will totally change their lives to make them antisocial, incapable of having normal families and normal lives. So it's there is no reason. Pornography is not something. I mean, it's like saying, even pollution. Okay, let's talk about pollution. In economics, there's this concept of optimal pollution, and that's the idea that there's a point where pollution is bad, right? But there's a point where it becomes prohibitively expensive to get rid of the last bits of pollution. So there's kind of an optimal pollution rate, okay? So, that's fine. In pornography, there might be an optimal pornography rate, but it is so minuscule because it would be so easy if the American government came for pornography with the same gusto that it came for Donald Trump. Do you think it would be anywhere near as easy to find pornography on the internet? No, it could be easily wiped out. Oh, we're stealing that domain. Oh, we're canceling that, right? So all of these canceling people who are canceling things, again, because they're good, what if we just did that but with things that are bad, indisputably bad? And I know some people who will pretend that pornography is, in some twisted Coomer logic, it's somehow good for something, but there is no benefit ever that has ever come from pornography. It is entirely demonic. It is entirely destructive. Everyone who it touches, it destroys, without an exception. There is no safe use of it. There is no, oh, I'm just going to play with it a little bit, and this is just for fun. It destroys everyone it touches. And anyone who's defending this is just insane. I have some stupid libertarian ideology that forces me to, I have to make up these reasons why I think that meth and porn should be legal. It's just stupid. They're just bad. They're just bad. I don't know what to tell people. There's no redeeming qualities. There are many bad things that have redeeming qualities. Alcohol's a good example, where the bad things are comparatively minor and controlled, and within a long-standing cultural tradition. It can be used, it's had traditional medicinal purposes. It's used in cuisine. It's something that you can enjoy, and it's not like it's not contagious in the same way that porn has, that it takes over people's lives. Okay. Yeah, and the whole thing, someone said this, or like this guy says the same thing. I started watching softcore porn as an adolescent back in the 90s because it was on Cinemax and we had, so that's the thing. Firstly, a lot of people will say, "Oh, I need sexual stimulation," and they give what is in effect the devil a foothold. There's this cope that, oh, the human body, like if I'm not cooming all the time, oh, scientists say that I'm gonna like explode, I'm gonna become crazy or something, and it's just the opposite. And it's just stupid. All right. Oh, I already read that. Oh, sorry. I haven't gotten any donations since. All right. Okay, I guess we're about done. Thoughts on Islam? I already said that. I don't really have any thoughts. Thoughts on Kierkegaard and Hegel? Hegel is just a bunch of word salad. I haven't read Kierkegaard. Are you specifically talking about video porn or pictures just as bad? Pictures are not just as bad, but they are bad. And of course, there are artistic. You can like, for example, I'm not really anti-nudity. I think nudity is a good example of something that is across different cultures. You know, there are some cultures where people go around nude. Nudity is not inherently bad, and there is an artistic place for nudity, right? Classical art has it and things like that. There's nothing inherently sexual about it, right? And of course, pictures and stuff. Yeah, that's pornography. Yeah, that's bad, but it's not as bad as video pornography. So, I mean, a lot of it comes from, and of course, there are a lot of coomers that can interpret everything in a sexual way. I think it depends on the intentions of the person producing it. Like, no one making pornography has the idea that it's artistic. They might put what they imagine to be artistic flourishes, but it's pornography. Like, it's not made for artistic appreciation. It's made for cooming. Like, that's what it's made for, right? Alcohol kills people all the time. Yeah, it's a predictable and low level of death, right? And we know how to prevent alcohol deaths by saying people, telling people not to drive drunk, right? It's a very easy thing. And I think the insinuation there is somehow because pornography does not kill people, therefore that it's good. No, that's the stupidest thing. Pornography kills the soul. It's something significantly worse. There are a lot of girls and boys who get into pornography young, and they can never have a normal relationship without significant debrainwashing. They can't talk to people. They become shut-ins. They live in their rooms all day. They masturbate and they play video games, and that's it. Okay. Is prostitution as bad as porn? No. Definitely not. Absolutely not. I mean, actually, Aquinas actually writes about this. He argues that prostitution is of course a sin. It is fornication. It is a sin. But prostitution, there's a case to be made that it should be a legal thing even, he argues, because it's a kind of, it's basically people can have a sexual, he describes it as like a sewage system, right? Sewage systems, they're nasty, they're disgusting, no one wants to be around them, but there is a sense in which they might prevent other vices. And this is what coomers say in the case of pornography, but it's just not the case. Like, pornography is not equivalent even to a prostitute, right? Because pornography is something that stimulates people and never fulfills them. And it keeps them going, they're just crazy, Sorry, my browser is I'm trying to get back into chat, but oh, people say that's cringe. No, I don't necessarily agree that I definitely don't think that prostitution is just bad, but I'm not saying that to say that I endorse prostitution. No. Yeah, don't get it twisted about that. No. But I think there is at least a case to be made that there are some vices that might prevent other vices That's just what Aquinas argued. I don't necessarily give credence to that. And that's definitely not the case in pornography. Like, pornography stimulates and it does not satisfy. And it makes people more awkward and annoying. Yep. All right. So, one last check, and I'm tired. Gotta go to bed. It's almost, the sun's about to go down. Okay. Okay, well, I guess that's about it. So again, I will probably, I will say this is going to be the last stream I do in a while on a Saturday. I might be able to do one in the middle of weeks. But this Saturday I've been free. But the next couple of ones, probably for the next 2 months, I just have stuff every single way. Oh, I forgot to announce. I am probably going to Monerotopia in a couple weeks. Kevin Wad was going to go, but he ended up finding that he had some kind of passport problems or something. Forgot to renew his passport or something little like that, so he can't get it. So I'm actually going to go in his stead. So, or at least he suggested me, and I think I'll probably go. So I will probably be there. That's in Miami, I think. I got to find a way there. So I might be there if any Monero people are going to be there. How do you get brainwashed out of porn? Just stop watching it. I mean, that's a way to start it, right? Yeah, I gotta go. I'm getting tired. But I'll see you guys next time. I might do a stream sometime during the week, but we'll see how things go. But thanks everyone who showed up, and I will see you guys next time.